Hello again, this is Charlie Bellefontaine, and you're listening to the Chicago Housing Experts here on WC. That's true. He does get that out there quite a bit. But Patrick, if you don't mind, give me the quick introductions, and then we can get to work.
Steve does average one swear word each show, and every 10 a slur. So he does, look, Steve is the kind of person that wants to make sure that people are doing their jobs. And if he does not, slide something in there to make sure that Devin's listening, then I
think it's more than that.
You think she's just a profane person?
No, not at all. Steve, seriously, he's a very passionate person, and he does get aggravated whenever we start talking about bad practices that happen in the real estate transaction. And it's, I kind of enjoy it. At the firehouse, we used to tease people and see if we could get them aggravated and stuff like that. And even care about the people that he works with. And yeah, sometimes he gets passionate and then his words start screaming out there. And I do too.
Wow. That's the most diplomatic thing that anyone's ever said.
I value him. He cares about people. I'm serious.
Listen,
that's a big deal to me.
I don't care. All I care about is talking, the word that he likes to say that I won't say because I'm a professional.
And for those of you watching, it's poop. All right.
Goodness gracious. I don't even want to know if it's a good idea to introduce myself at this point, but I will anyway. My name is Patrick Loftus. I am a real estate lawyer, believe it or not. After that, I am the kind of person that you will get involved if you're buying or selling your home to make things go smoothly. Find me on social media. I'm kind of in between phone numbers at the moment, so we're working that out. We're expanding the operation at Loftus Law, so that's exciting. But I don't have all of the details all worked out, so stay tuned. Find me on social media though. That's not going to change. No. On Instagram, I am Loftus_law, and as long as the owner of Meta toes the line with our leadership in this country, that'll remain. The other one, which who knows what's going to happen, but on TikTok, which is the more exciting one, sexy, I'm Loftus Law. I got there first. I don't have to put that gross little underscore in.
Gross little underscore. That's funny.
Find me on YouTube Shorts. Come watch my shorts.
My name is Charlie Bellefontaine. I own Chicagoland Home Inspectors. Our phone number is 312-544-9180. And we've been getting more and more questions, recently, and on top of our club page that's going on there. And I think we're going to keep trying to pull those up here so we could keep addressing them. And I want to start off with the legal ones first. And that one came back here as a seller. And this is, on the seller side, not the buy side, but they're getting multiple offers and not how to handle it from a real estate agent's point of view, but what legal ramifications are there for a seller and what they have to do for multiple offers.
All right, so get ready. If you're still in bed and need to hit that snooze button, this is going to take care of that, all right?
I'm interested in this stuff because I'd like to know.
Yeah, I mean, from a legal perspective, look, it's not complicated, right? You said evaluate it from the legal perspective. That's going to be kind of secondary, I think. Number one, they're going to start out looking at the terms, right? Price, when's the closing going to happen, what's the financing look like, et cetera. I think where you could find yourself in a pickle as a seller is if you are sorting through the offers and setting things aside for discriminatory reasons, right? This family doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood. Don't do that at all. That is a horrible way to sort through that. I would probably also, I know that I've heard things about the love letters that people submit with the offer, right? It's like, me and my family, we love this. I've got a small child, blah, blah, blah. That is like a real landmine.
On whose side?
For the seller, because, it's like, you never know who that buyer, who's making that offer.
So if they're sincere or not is what you're saying.
No, I don't. Who cares if they're sincere? I mean, that's for you to decide if you believe them or not. But more along the lines of, so number one, the rules are what they are, right? If you are discriminating against someone for a protected reason, and when I say protected reason, I mean you can discriminate against someone because of their shoe size or their I don't know, the color of their shorts.
No, but there are federal protections and state
Right.
protections as well,
So,
and they're not all the same.
Well, that's true. The state ones are typically more. There are more categories of protected people, but I would very much avoid sorting by race, by religion, by their LGBTQ plus status.
Yeah.
All
of that is just be kind to other people where it comes in there.
Well, listen, if we would not need these laws if it were not necessary to maintain prohibitions against that kind of categorization. I mean, you don't have to go that far back to find really despicable practices like redlining. But look, those practices. We think about that as abhorrent, right? This idea that there will literally be a map of the city of Chicago with red lines on it, which is where the name redlining comes from.
Yeah.
But in many respects, when you abolish that kind of overt discrimination, restricted covenants is another example of, where it's like, you cannot sell to someone who is anything other than a Anglo-Saxon white person, right? Those are overt. Those are just really obvious to figure out what that's trying to do and why we don't want that. But
here, let me look at it on the other side of you. And when you said that, this is what went through my head. What if I am a buyer and I go ahead and write this love letter, stuff like that, and I go ahead and let you know in that letter that I'm a protective class, and you choose not to give me the home? You choose to go with somebody else for whatever reason. It's not because I'm a protected class. It's because you like somebody else's financial situation better. All right. Is there some sort of legal liability for the seller if something like that comes up?
That's why you don't want to even get involved. If I was an agent and someone submitted a love letter with an offer, I would say, look, I opened up the attachment. I see that there is something that I don't think is something that should be considered in connection with the offer that's being made. Please remove it and resubmit your offer.
And this is the agent for the seller of the home, not necessarily the agent for the buyer of the home.
Well, the agent for the buyer of the home would, they may or may not decide to omit that. They don't really have any, they don't have nearly as much to worry about. If their people hand them, this is what I want to submit, and they submit it, I don't know that they're necessarily gonna have nearly as much to worry about as on the other side. If it's like, hey, we're the perfect white folks for your neighborhood, and you read that and you can't unread it, it's like, oh no. Now what? It's like that's the kind of minefield that you want to avoid. So
I have heard real estate agents tell their clients, let's write a letter, let's let them know how much we love this neighborhood and everything else, and now you're putting a little bit of fear in me.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I know people who have used that technique successfully. Heck, I've seen those letters, and they can be quite persuasive. But if I'm a seller, I don't want that trouble. There are folks out there, and look, you should comply with certainly with these particular types of laws, because, as you said, it's the right thing to do.
It is the right thing to do.
No one should be starting from everyone should be starting from the same starting point, right? I should have just as much opportunity to buy your place as anyone else. If I submit the best offer, no matter who I am, what I am, what characteristics I have, within those categories of people, I think all of that should be as fair as is possible. I mean, my dad always told me growing up, life's not fair, and that's true. But we try to do our best, right?
Well, you don't want to leave yourself open for any sort of problems. That's the big thing.
And here's the thing, you go, well, that's a rule, but what are the consequences? And here's where the rubber meets the road, if you will. There are folks out there, organizations that will be out there testing people.
Yeah.
So, an example of that is I had a client that reached out to me and is like, boy, I got an offer from a prospective tenant who wanted to rent one of my units, and they asked if I accepted vouchers, and I didn't know what that was, and so I said no. And what that meant is the colloquial term for it. And in Cook County, that is a no-no
Really?
to discriminate against someone based on the way that they intend to pay for the rent, and that's primarily geared toward folks who are Section 8, who some landlords just don't want to deal with it for a variety of reasons. I mean, quite frankly, I think it's a good thing if someone has a housing choice voucher, because it means that you're that much more certain to get at least that portion of the rent that the housing choice voucher program is saying that they will pay. But other people take a different approach to that, or they have a different idea about what what that means if someone has a housing choice voucher.
Is it only Cook County that's a problem? Or
I know it's Cook County. It may be statewide at this point. It's definitely not a nationwide thing. So I would, if you're listening to this, assume it is the entire state of Illinois. And if you want further clarification on that, you can DM me at Loftus_law on Instagram, or find me on TikTok at Loftus Law. But likewise, I would be under the assumption that whatever offers that I am fielding for my place, I mean, assume that you're being watched, right? And then if you act accordingly and comply with the laws, then you will not have to have the unfortunate experience of getting a letter from a lawyer that you don't want to hear from that says, actually, we, submitted this offer and you said no to us, even though we were offering $25,000 above ask, and you accepted an offer that was at the ask, and the only reasonable conclusion we can reach based on the how it ended up closing and what our offer was is that you were using impermissible reasoning for declining the offer, which is to me is cuckoo to say, well, this particular family is offering me more money and better terms in a contract than this family, but I just like these guys better. I mean, it happens all the time, by the way. So
No way.
It's not crazy. In multiple offer situations?
No. I mean, people actually, I like these people better. They're going to take lesser of an offer. I thought it's mostly logical.
You
decision.
would think that, but no. And I wish we had Steve in here. I'm sure he could point at, and not at
we would rile him up, wouldn't we?
Well, no, I don't necessarily think so. I think he could probably point at situations where he had sellers, and not because they were discriminating, but because, after evaluating the multiple offers, they went with a lower offer.
Right.
And sometimes I have heard it doesn't happen like regularly, but it happens often enough that when I hear such a thing, I'm not surprised.
So here's something that happened to me. We got hired to do an inspection. We did the inspection. We provided the report. Right after we did the inspection, no response was done from our clients, their attorneys. There was no communication. They received some sort of correspondence that the sellers are canceling the deal. They're going with another buyer.
Well, they didn't say the second part. They said, I know where you're going. Well,
they said they took another offer. That's what they told. They got a better offer, and that's what they said.
They shouldn't have said that.
No,
that's...
It just seemed totally wrong that somebody would be able to do something like that. It was the real estate agent that was doing the decision-making when it comes to it. And I really couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's unfair, right? It is unfair. I've had that happen both ways. I've had clients who they go under contract, and then within that 5 business day attorney review / inspection contingency period, someone else will come in with an offer that's, for example, $10,000 higher. I've definitely had situations where the client goes, well, a deal's a deal, and let's see what happens. We'll just keep these other people in our back pocket. I've had clients who say, I want the money. And, obviously the first approach is the more, this is a safer approach, right? You're not getting close to any third rails as far as getting yourself in a pickle. Because you signed a contract and you're honoring it, right? I mean, pretty obvious. The second situation is one where you've got to be careful. If you were gonna go for the money, in most instances, you can get away with it. Knock on wood, I've never had a client who wanted to go for the money where, we ended up getting sued or something. Now, why is that? Why is taking the more money even when you're in the attorney review contingency period? Why could that be problematic? Well, the way that the attorney review provisions are written in the contract forms we most commonly use, it says something along the lines of attorney may disapprove of the contract except as to the purchase price. The CAR form adds in purchase price and realtor compensation. So those are 2 exclusions or set asides from the list of essentially anything that I can come up with as the lawyer to disapprove of the contract. In essence, if you are saying I disapprove of this contract because I want to accept the higher offer, you're disapproving of the price, right? Now, here's where your sort of get out of jail free card is, sort of,
Okay.
Because there are 1,000 other things I could point. I could say, the finance contingency paragraph does not meet my approval. The real estate tax proration, I don't approve of that. I don't approve of any number of things that a lawyer could use as a pretext for what the real thing is, which is that I want to take more money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in the vast majority of circumstances, a buyer, even the most angry buyers, are not going to go the route of filing a lawsuit. Now, what can a buyer do in that situation? Are you telling me as a buyer there's literally nothing I can do? As a buyer, if you really want to, if this is just the house, you just have to have it. You could, for example, record the contract. You take the contract down to the county clerk's office, you record it, it becomes part of the chain of title. You've now clouded title. It is now going to be extremely difficult for the seller to sell it to that next buyer.
That seems a little malicious, though.
Malicious in what sense? The seller just told you, hey, we agree to sell this property to you at this price, and then whoops, nah, forget it. I want to sell it to someone else.
And I get all that, but all I'm hearing right now is you started it, and I want to go ahead and fight back, But nobody really wins. Once the anger gets there and everybody starts escalating things, doesn't that just go? I mean, sometimes you got to take the loss. Am I wrong?
I don't see. I think speaking about this very broadly in that sense,
it is.
It's
and
really,
it's all hypothetical.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, I can't say that I agree with that statement, just broadly speaking, because you really need to know more about the particular situation. But look, a contract is a legally enforceable promise, right? If I cannot legally enforce that promise, what good is it, right? If you as a seller,
that's a good point.
If you as a seller are going to sign a legally enforceable written agreement, and then you are going to, contrary to the very terms of that agreement, say that I don't like this because it's not a high enough price, even though I agreed to it. And sorry, buyer, tough cookies, get out of here. I'm accepting someone else's offer. As a buyer, if you can either say, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles, if we're going to extend that metaphor, or you can say, I have remedies. That's what courts are for. could you see that from a certain perspective and say, well, you're just being vindictive? If I want that house, how is that vindictive?
You do what you do within the law.
I made an offer. It got accepted. The buyer violated the terms of that contract. I'm enforcing the contract.
All right, that opens up a whole nother can of worms now. All right, here's Charlie's Mr. What If, right? All right, so I'm a buyer. You and I agree, you're the seller. You and I agree that we're going to do this. All of a sudden, I go through the process, I invest money, and then you get a better offer. You cancel my offer, all right, that comes in there. I go and record this. You don't know I'm doing that, and I don't know how long it takes for all the notification, but they've already accepted another offer from another person that comes in there. I mean, now this, you want to talk about mucking it up.
You got a problem as a seller, so you're right. There are a lot of things that there are a lot of there's a lot you need to jump, right? A lot of hoops you need to jump through to make sure that everything happens in the right order so that you don't find yourself jammed up, right? So what I'll have often in a situation like you're describing where you've got contract accepted, inspection takes place, you might even have an appraisal that happens, and then poof, out of the blue, contract termination, blah, blah, blah. One thing you'll hear from a client who, they'll usually feel, somewhat bad on some level to just kind of pull the rug out. They'll say, well, can I offer them to pay for their inspection? And
cover some of their losses.
What I usually say is you're treading on thin ice because you're kind of telling them.
Really? Now that sounds like the right thing to do.
It does. It does. But you're also kind of telling them, I kind of did you over. I kind of,
this is the boomer talking. That's my beef with life in general. I think it's like, for me, every time that I made a mistake, it was just dug into me that own up to it, admit that you made the mistake, fix the problem, move forward. Oh my God, Patrick's eyes are lighting up right now.
You want good legal advice, or do you want, you're not talking to your pastor, friend.
No, but that's just
You're
me.
talking
That's
to the
just
lawyer.
what I believe, and
Hey,
I want to hear from the lawyer. Now I understand why people don't admit they're wrong, which drives me up the wall.
If you want to stay out of legal trouble in that scenario, don't say, "Hey man, sorry about that whole mix-up. Hey, here's some money to make up for what? To make up for what? I thought your attorney disapproved of the contract. What do you have to make up for? I just feel bad. About what? About what do you feel bad? Now here's you got all snooty with me, but let me finish because I wasn't done. I'm not a complete monster.
You are my favorite attorney.
The ESQ that they attach to our names doesn't completely remove our humanity. So here is what I tell someone when they come to me and they say, look, I'm going to do the thing that probably I would hate myself or I would hate someone else to do to me. I want to offer them, I want to make them whole to the best that I can. I say, look, don't do anything until we get the mutual agreement signed by both sides. If at that point you want to approach them and say, hey, I know I can't make up for all the hard feelings, but let me do something for you. At that point, we have, at the very least, have something in writing officially terminating that contract. And if you want to offer at that point to try to make it right or smooth things over, I think we're on much more solid ground. If we haven't yet, if the buyer hasn't yet crossed over into the acceptance phase of the loss, we're not at a place where it's okay to go ahead and shift their thinking. So
that was a quick step.
Well, I mean, what more is there to say? I mean, at that point, you've got your official termination from the offer that you didn't want to offer. It's from the contract you didn't want to move forward with. Go ahead, accept the new contract, and you've in my opinion, if you take the steps if you take those steps in that order, you're much less likely to find yourself in a pickle where you're either under contract with two buyers or you've got a contract that's been recorded, because what are you going to say as a buyer if you record a contract and I've got a mutual cancellation agreement signed by you, man, I'm firing off that defamation of title letter as quickly as I possibly can on the seller side of things, going, are you kidding me? They're on much shakier ground as the buyer. I mean, they could say that they were, induced to sign that, based on less than honest information, and but that's a harder case than the one where they go, I'm not signing anything. You already told me, basically, I'm sorry that I, screwed you over. You go out of order on that, and you've got yourself in a situation where you could end up. I mean, look, maybe the worst case scenario there is you go to the other buyer, hey, I couldn't get out of the contract, sorry. And in which case there is a provision. What I recommend, because people, they want to get that second offer signed, right? They don't want to go through all those steps. They don't want to go in order. They're in a big rush. They want the problem to be solved.
I think that rush is usually the problem, isn't it?
You've got to respect the process, in my opinion. If you want to be safe, right? Like, you're gonna have a couple sleepless nights because these things don't happen overnight. You don't kick a buyer out of an otherwise valid contract and then they go, shoot, send me over the cancellation agreement. Let me sign that. Let me do everything I can to make your life easier, seller, even though you just screwed me over.
I have another situation that's happening to me right now, and you just open up my eyes to understand what's going on. All right. So I did get a demand letter for $32,000.
Nice.
Yeah, that's always fun to get, right? And this has been happening more and more lately. I know down in Florida, they have a lot of issues with homeowners insurance down there, especially roofs.
Everywhere,
and stuff.
but yeah, Florida for sure.
Well, it's coming here.
Yeah.
All right. And what I mean by that is, if you got a roof that's 15 years old, the insurance company will tell you that you got two choices. You can either put a brand new roof on, or we're going to cancel your policy, and they give you 30 days to get this done.
Or find a new insurance company.
They're not going to give you that option. All right, they're going to give you one or the other.
Yeah, I'm taking option C.
Exactly, that comes in there. So this client, and I feel that, again, if I'm going to be making myself guilty, I'm making myself guilty. But I feel that I failed them because, A, I didn't know what insurance company they were going with. I didn't know what their insurance rules were. We did document everything carefully. But most importantly, where I feel I failed is they didn't trust me enough to reach out to me to help them with this problem. All right. They sent a letter of demand. Hear me out. They got a roofer out there. They gave him a super escalator. I mean, this is a bungalow. All right, $32,000 for a tear-off re-roof is kind of on the high side. Kinda is right.
Are we doing a cedar shake? What are we doing here?
No, it was standard, 20-year, fiberglass, probably architectural, but whatever.
Inflation is really...
It's just a little too high. And whether they got more than one bid, I don't know. They came back with this thing, right?
They got to hire documented people now.
And we have it in our agreement where, we're not responsible for these things. And we put it in our report that, there's no way we know what the insurance requirements are going to be. So I can't coach you on that one. But you should ask them. Now, I had this happen 2 times before, all right? Both times those clients, boy, I sounded like a Chicago guy right there, didn't I?
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them. Both of them reached out to me, and I was able to go back to the property, take a lot of pictures about the property, and prove to the insurance company that we're not ponding or we don't have these problems in here. This was a problem because, the insurance companies right now that are doing this, they use Google Earth. And that's it. They don't send anybody out there. They don't fly a drone. They don't see anything updated. They just go by the last picture that was up on the satellite views. And I was able to...
They're going to get sued.
That may be true, and they got deep pockets, but they also have deep lawyers as well.
They got deep pockets. Let me tell you, the reason that they are vulnerable is because of those deep pockets, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously this particular person isn't going to be the one who is, going to be able to make that happen. But trust me, there are law firms, and I'm thinking of one in particular, who I won't name, who will be more than happy to go after them.
No, I'm with you. And it just seems a little bit awkward. I really wish my client would have reached out to me ahead of time before they asked for the money, because my insurance, and this is something that everybody should know in case they get mad at their home inspector, talk to them first, all right? If you trust a person and a nice person, they're going to do the right thing. And most people believe in doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason and doing it the right way. But if you don't trust them or something like that, and you feel that you have to get the attorney and start that route, well, then once the attorneys are involved, I'm not allowed to talk to them anymore. So now, my insurance company, I have to go through them with every piece of communication. And they, and I told them, I says, listen, I did not offer this to our client, but I want to help them. I'm not angry at them. I know we're not going to be liable for this. I know it's going to be denied, and there's, we're not responsible for this, but I can still help them. I've done it in the past, and I want to. And he's like, yeah, we're going to hold off on that. I'm sorry, but right now, why are you saying no?
Don't do that. Don't do that. I mean,
don't do what?
So first of all, we should probably redact like the last 5 minutes of you talking, because the way that you're talking, your insurance company is gonna hate you. Because
why?
Because as soon as you go, I think I failed. Man,
I failed in building trust. My job is to build trust.
They are going to play each of those snippets at the deposition, and they were going to go, you said that, right? And you still believe that you failed. And look, here's the thing: is that's not, you may hold yourself to that standard, but that's not the standard legally that you're held to. You're held to the standard of a reasonable building inspector in the Chicago area under similar circumstances.
And we did that.
The idea that you would be responsible for what an insurance company does on down the line is crazy. It's a crazy idea. And if any judge or jury wants to disagree with me on that, I'd be happy to debate you on that, because heck, I mean,
and I agree with that.
The only people that are even close to experts on insurance are insurance defense plaintiff and defense lawyers. I mean, that's how complicated insurance is. And it changes constantly, right? If you and I were having this conversation a year ago, we wouldn't be having it, because you wouldn't have the experience of a client saying, my insurance wants to drop me because they saw what my house looks like from Google Earth. Like it wasn't a thing.
No, and you're right. This all started within the last year.
And I don't think it will be a thing for very much longer. I think
really?
that the courts will probably, because what is that? What kind of data is that you're evaluating? I mean, sure, if you want to use that as data to determine what premiums that need to be charged in a particular area or something, yeah, maybe that is okay. But to go on Google Earth, something that is like, it's not dated, that picture.
They are dated.
Okay.
They are, yeah. And you could clearly see ponding on a flat roof.
Okay, did it rain the day before?
Actually, it did rain the day before we did the inspection. It rained the day before.
Right. So I mean, look, that is pretty. I mean, it's, as you said, insurance companies have a ton of resources. Google Earth. I mean, come on. If anything, I mean, send out some first year employees with some drones, train them up on the drones, and go have them fly drones over all of these places.
That seems a little awkward too.
Oh, is that too much? That's too much to ask an insurance company to go and if you're going to cancel someone's insurance unless they buy a new roof, to send someone out to actually look at the roof.
But this is what's happening. I mean, let's talk about what happened in California. A lot of the insurance companies canceled a lot of homeowners' policies. They said it was too dry or whatever their reasoning was. Uh-huh. And that was like a month or 2 or 3 before the big fires, and a lot of people lost their homes. That's a big deal.
Going to be a lot of lawsuits over that, too.
There is.
And, look, insurance companies, whatever they want to tell you, you're in good hands. You're, like a good neighbor.
No, don't
whatever
use all
they
the
are,
logos. I don't want to go make them mad.
Whatever they're telling you, they ain't your friend, man. They ain't your neighbor.
No, it's a business deal. You're right.
It is. They are.
And it goes back to the legal things as you mentioned earlier.
They are. You have a contract with them, and they are a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
So and the point I'm trying to make there is that you have to understand that contract, they're happy to uphold their end of the bargain in the contract, except when it's not looking so good for the share price, and then they go, ask any insurance defense lawyer about the sort of ebb and flow, and when they are losing their tushies because of all the claims they're paying. Yeah. All of a sudden, the claims process gets a lot harder. All of a sudden, they want to take their in-house counsel and they want to push you closer and closer to trial instead of resolving things. If I can push this into Q1 of 2025 instead of settling it in Q4 of 2024, these become business decisions instead of decisions about whether I'm abiding by the contract that I have with my insured, which is extremely frustrating for the insured because the person making those decisions, they're not going to not get their salary. There's, they made a decision and, it's going to impact your life incredibly. And, you may or may not have a place to live because of that decision, because their shareholders want 3 pennies more on the dividend than could be offered if they settled a bunch of these things.
I'm going to spew a little bit here, and I don't know how accurate it is, but I think homeowners insurance, at least like what we pay, is somewhere around $1,000 a year. All right, and my wife pays the bills. I don't.
Okay. Yeah, your wife definitely pays the bills.
Yeah, so I probably don't know, but I'm hearing in Florida they're paying $1,000 a month.
Yeah, well, I mean.
And then there's all the main insurance companies, the bigger ones, have pulled out.
Well, so $1,000 a month, it depends. All of that is going to depend on how much insurance you need, right? So, I'm sure there are far more people paying $1,000 a month for far less coverage than you would get here for $1,000 a month. In fact, a lot of people, especially at the higher end in Florida, are self-insuring because they would be paying $12,000-13,000 a month.
Help me understand what that means, please.
Self-insuring, they're just going, I'll just fix it, if it floods.
So that means I don't have homeowners insurance, is what you're really saying.
Right. If I've got a $7 million home on the intercoastal, and I know it's going to flood every 4 or 5 years, and it's going to cost me $100,000 to get rid of all the the damaged stuff and buy new. But it cost me $12,000-13,000 a month for insurance. I would rather pay, the lesser amount every 4 or 5 years than pay $500,000 over the course of 5 years for insurance. So
I agree.
The math works out for folks at that end of the spectrum, and
But we don't have that option if we have a mortgage, right?
No, but if you have a house like that, you probably have the option of not having a mortgage.
Gotcha.
So
but not everybody has that option. Obviously, most people do have mortgages,
and that's why was saying at the higher end. When people, the more money you have, the more options you have as far as those kinds of things go. You can really make a bless you, Devin. You can really make that cost benefit analysis, as straightforward as you want. Of course, your insurance company, I don't know, maybe you could put $500,000 in an escrow account and they would take that as an alternative. Probably not, right? Because now they got to do a special deal for you, and then the next person's going to want a special deal, and they don't want that's just an admin headache for them. They just go get insurance. What's wrong with you?
But like I said, the first two, going back to those other ones, they did not have to change their insurance. The flat roof where Google Earth showed that it was ponding, it was clear. Even our photos showed the stain that was there. But we were able to document the day that we did the inspection. That's all dated. We were able to get the weather from there. We showed that it rained at that point in time. We were there less than 24 hours later, and all the water was gone. All right. So ponding, by definition of HUD, is when there's water still left on the roof 48 hours after it stopped raining. All right, that's the definition by HUD for ponding. Well, we're there 24 hours afterwards and the water's gone. All right, so whatever was happening, it was ponding, it was corrected. Now it's draining, but the stains are still there.
Yeah, and look, because that person took a different approach than the collaborative approach, that's where it's like, okay, look, at this point we have to take a posture that they are, pre-litigation, and
They are.
those discussions are no longer collaborative.
No.
Those are discussions that, really anything that happens from there on forward is likely to be used against you.
Everything that I do is to help my clients. Everything that we do in our business, we try to make a big long list. I try to explain everything, and I really go out of my way to help our clients. But when stuff like this happens, I can't help them. All right, they're going to get harmed. They're going to either, if they don't know better, they're going to spend that $32,000 to put a new roof on, which doesn't need to really happen.
That's on them. That's on them. But look,
maybe this is just a weakness because I care.
Look, man, how are you to control that?
I can't control it.
Exactly.
That's my point.
So if you're going to kvetch about it, all it's going to do is frustrate you because
Don't give
you're
me
like,
that trick.
Well, all you're gonna do is get frustrated by the fact that someone didn't do something the way you thought they should have done it. And man,
well, I'm not always right.
I'm not
that.
immune to that impulse, okay? Yeah. But I also try my very best to, in the very next breath, go, this is outside of my control. And the more I think about it, the more I'm just going to, this is all stuff happening in your own head, right?
This is why they call.
Your heart's in the right place.
I care about people.
And at some point you have to let them be who they are. And this is a person who,
I have no choice.
Yeah. So you say, I wish it would have gone different. I might have been able to help you.
Talk to him.
No, nor should you. And we should probably strike the conversation from this.
No, I don't think there's. I'm not going to lie. This is exactly how I feel. I shared this with the insurance company too, and I'm going to do whatever they have because not only do I care about our clients, and I mean all of them. All right, and we do a lot of inspections, and I really do my best to help everybody, even people that don't hire us, and we help them. It's everything is about guidance and sharing what I know, but I also have to be responsible for the other 12 home inspectors that work under our name. And if I do something that's going to cause our business to, get bankrupted by a lawsuit or whatever the reason is, then I'm harming 12 families now.
That's not going to bankrupt you because you have, first of all, you have insurance. Second of all, even if you had to, it's just the breadth of your potential liability is very small.
I agree.
I mean, it's, but at the same time, it's like once you're in an adversarial position, and I'm not your lawyer, I can't give you legal advice. I can just tell you my own opinion on it. Once someone has taken that posture with you, you just go, look, we'll talk about this when it's all said and done. And if we have an NDA on it, then I'll never talk about it. And that's just how those things go. I mean, there are things that I'd love to tell you certain stories about certain things that have happened, and I'm just not at liberty to do it, either because I owe people duties of confidentiality, their communications with me are privileged, or it's not something that I've agreed not to talk about it. And so, so be it. I
haven't gotten to that part yet. I don't know if we will.
Well, it's no stain on my reputation that these things exist. I've got to work within those parameters.
Yeah, and same with us. I mean, it happens. That's why we have attorneys. That's why we have insurance. That's why we need to protect ourselves and have contract and have laws in the state of Illinois.
The more I've said this, I say this to anyone who is, going through a situation where, they're kind of taking it hard that someone is taking that kind of stance with them. And it's just that, look, because of this is really a symptom of your success in business. The more successful you become in business, the bigger the target is on you. and you are going to find people out there, and whether or not she has malice or what her what her motivations are, it's a situation where she's looking for someone to scapegoat for the problem, right? On the one hand, you might have been able to help her with getting the insurance company to rescind that decision. You may have also been able to lead her in the right direction of an insurance company that won't treat her harshly like that.
I would.
On the other hand, that she may not want that at all. You may not have taken into consideration that she may just want Charlie to pay for her new roof.
That might be too. She might be a bad person.
So
absolutely, and it's not going to happen. That it's just.
Of course not. Listen, if you were in that business, I'd be like, hire Charlie. He'll buy you a roof. He'll do all kinds of things for you. Obviously not, right? So, but there are people out there, they look at you and they go, yeah, this guy can afford it. And so they want to stick you with.
See, my mind doesn't work that way.
Of course. Well, exactly. But you have to take into consideration that people's have all kind of different minds about things.
That's true.
And they were
different
raised,
backgrounds, raised different.
They were raised different. If you've got a scheming set of parents, guess what kind of person you're likely to grow up to be.
That's a shame.
It is. But it's why are there almost as many opinions about the law as there are lawyers? Because we all come from different backgrounds. We have different education, different experience, different sets of values, different everything. And we all, the one thing we have in common is we all think we know what we're talking about and that we're right.
And often we're wrong. And
that's the problem. All of the other lawyers are wrong.
Yeah.
How could that be?
I don't know. But it's the same thing. It's something, like I said, I got this Instagram post that's over 600,000 views. I tell you what, you want to get a following on Instagram? Mm-hmm. You put something out there that's wrong. Yeah. All right? You will have tons of people coming out there telling you how dumb you are.
Or have nice cleavage. That's another way
well, I don't, for what that's worth.
I mean, I beg to differ. Well, since the Ozempic, your cleavage has gotten less enticing.
Just a little bit. So I'm going to switch gears just a tad a little bit. Well, it's another question, and I am getting into this. I think this is really a good discussion to have. But one of the other ones that came up, somebody was asking, hey, what are the common issues in Chicago that home inspectors find, right? And I sat back and I looked, and again, we do roughly 1,500 inspections a year, all right? So I got a lot of data, but I never really did anything with that data. I never really put it together, all right? So what I did yesterday, which was pretty cool.
Dork.
I am a dork. I took all those PDF reports and I put them in a Google folder, and then I had artificial intelligence search all those things, and I'm able to see what is the most common issue that we find when we do our home inspections.
GFCI, gotta be up there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, let's do a couple guesses here, Mr. Smarty Pants. All right, let's start with the roof. What do you think is the number one issue, and it's by far, that we find wrong with the roofs?
With the roof, I'm going to say gutters probably. Does that count?
Gutters do count, and that was number 2. Whether they're leaking, dirty, clogged, whatever the case is. But number 1 was the flashing. All right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's where we found it. Yeah.
People do not maintain their gutters, and they do not understand how important it is.
And a lot of times we run into patching, where somebody goes up on the roof and they didn't put the proper flashing and they just glue a bunch of tar up there.
Right.
And
they use the wrong caulk for that?
So would you behave, And then they just shmoo it up there. But with the UV rays of the sun, people don't realize it dries it up.
It's fine.
It's not fine. It's only it's in our climate, it's not going to last more than 2 years, and
get some foam.
But then we come back to
you're gonna hate
me.
I
am going to hate you. You're not being a helpful attorney right now. But no, seriously, it's going back to, with the insurance stuff that we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier. If this isn't going to last 2 years, where somebody's going to have to go up there every year and do something, or we're going to have to spend money to correct it and do it right. And here's a big issue that people are having. Most roofing companies out there, they don't want to do repairs. They want to do new installs.
No, repairs are basically just future warranty problems.
And somebody else's work.
Yeah.
You know, so if you go in there, now you just made their problem your problem. Mm-hmm. And that's why they don't want to do it. If they're going to take on the responsibility, then they want to go ahead and pay for the entire thing, or at least replace the entire roof and get the money for that.
I mean, look, this it's a very, why is very obvious to me. You know, caulk cheap, new roof expensive.
All right.
And
how about exteriors?
Exteriors, I mean, hole in siding.
That's it, right there. You got it, number one. You know, and I was actually surprised on the amount of times that came up.
Yeah, because how do you fix it, right? Like, if you've got vinyl, you can pull that one run out, but even if you can find that color, it ain't gonna look right.
No, but it's actually not hard to fix. You know, this you joked
Little
before.
Bondo.
No, you joked about foam. All right, but those foam and the canned stuff, they come in different forms for different stuff. So if we got a hole, our biggest problem is water coming in and pests coming in. So, you know, I'll give everyone a hint. The color green is what you're going to want to watch for if you're going to get the expandable foam in there. But I see people spray that up there. I've done it on my house. You fill in the gaps with the foam, let it dry. Once it's dry, you can cut it smooth and flat, and you can get paint to match anything. You know, so all you have to do is paint that foam. You're going to protect it from the UV rays, because that is another weakness. Is the sun does cause that stuff to dry out and it opens up again. You know, so we do need to paint it or put sealant or caulk on the outside of that, you know, kind of like a two-prong approach.
Yeah, make sure you get the right caulk. There's tons of different kinds of caulks. The exterior caulk is different than the stuff you're putting in your bathroom.
It's also how you install it. You know, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, sealant or caulk actually has two distinct properties. One is it sticks to stuff, and the other one is it stretches.
Has to be elasticity.
All right? Exactly.
And not that I need to tell you this, Charlie, but speaking again about vinyl siding, is that it expands and contracts. Like, one thing,
we got to give it movement.
You know that they will have, that they installed it improperly. So the little nail holes in the vinyl siding are oval shaped, so that the expansion and contraction can happen without moving that nail. Because what'll happen, you'll see it'll bacon up if they hammer it in too hard and they don't allow for that play when
Gives
it expands and contracts. It's not as bad with aluminum, but with the vinyl for sure, they've got to be very careful about how hard they nail it in.
You have to leave a gap. In fact, that's stuff that we check for. We grab the siding and we want to slide it. If it doesn't slide, we're going to have problems.
It's my construction background coming out.
And I'm loving every minute of it. We are out of time, and I really got into this. I apologize. Patrick Loftus, Loftus Law on all social media. And my name is Charlie Bellefontaine.